Morning, daily huddlers. Good morning. I have to tell you before we get going talking about communication, about a friend of mine. He thinks he's shrinking. And so he went to the doctor and he told the doctor all the symptoms and said, I just really think I'm shrinking. I'm not sure what to do. He's in a panic. And the doctor said, just calm down. It's okay. You're just going to have to be a little patient.
I love it. I love it. It's terrible, but I love it.
Good way to lift them up.
Oh, they're so great. Good morning, daily huddlers. We're so glad you're here. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday when we talk everything communication and relationships. And we are so passionate about this because we know that the more effective we can communicate, the better relationships we can build. And the better relationships, the better communities, the better families, and the better business. So welcome to the Daily Huddle. Before we dive into our topic, which is about feedback today, we have a few questions to get us kind of warmed up. And I think I'm going to start with my buddy, Tom. Tom, tell me this morning, how are you and who will you hug today?
Tara, I am the way I say I am, and I am grateful for family and close friends. And I'm going to hug my preacher. I'm going to meet with him later today. And
wow. I love hearing that. Outstanding. Stacy, good morning. You seem especially energetic this morning. Tell me, what time is it and what are you grateful for?
The time is the only time that matters. The time is right here, right now, the only time we have full mastery of. And what am I grateful for? I am grateful for the job that I have with the meetings that I don't always want to have, because if I didn't have that I didn't have those meetings, it means I would not have this wonderful job. So I am grateful for that.
I love that. Thank you so much. You know what? I'm going to shake it up this morning because the beautiful Lizette is on camera. And so I want to ask you this morning, Lizette, where are you and who will you hug today?
I am right here and I'm going to hug my brother.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. That is outstanding. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And I am going to dive into our topic. Kathryn and I are both really passionate about this. We've been talking a lot lately about feedback. And a lot of times we think about feedback as either criticism or something we just have to go through, but feedback can be a gift. So I'm going to start with Kathryn and ask her to explain to us a little bit about the gift of feedback and how we can become better.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. I do love this topic. And I want to start off with a story about my son. He's 9. And the other night I noticed he was kind of downtrodden. And I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And out of his little mouth, he said, "I feel like my life doesn't matter." Just my heart. He was just having a hard day. And I said, "Well, honey, your life matters to me." And he said, "That does nothing for my brain." And I kept trying to tell him why it mattered, but it wasn't working. So I shifted and I started telling him about the day he was born and how beautiful he was and how I would just hold him and love on him, and all those first weeks and months where I would just stare at him in the bassinet. And then I remembered a story. He's starting to perk up a little. Something's shifting. I'm not just telling him his life matters. I'm explaining how it matters to me and what that looked like. And then I remembered a time when I was driving him home from preschool, and he was sitting in the back seat and he was putting stickers all over himself. And I said, "Hey, bud, what you doing?" And he said, my teacher told me to give these stickers to someone special, and I think me special. And that really is, it warms my heart in that moment. He curled up with me and was instantly better. And it got me thinking, you know, at some point we move away. And for my son, it's somewhere between the age of 4 and 9 from being really connected to me special, you know? And, you know, in the why, I mean, there's tons of reasons why society, or you know, how we grow up, all social media, you know, and all of that, it's just there. You know, there's times when we can't remember how special we are, you know, and we have to reach out to other people to hear that. And I just thought the greatest gift to give another person would be to let them know that they're that special. So Tara, that got you and I talking about feedback. And, so yeah, why don't you come in here with me? Because we've had this conversation about how do we give feedback? And there's a couple of ways in which you can. So we're kind of lumping this together with appreciation and feedback. How do we let people know that they're that special? And we've talked about, actually on the Daily Huddle, we've talked about the feedback circle or the appreciation circle. And that's, it's a way that you can do it that we want to talk about today and kind of pull it apart. And I actually just co-led a retreat yesterday with my team, and we used this because now it was a work retreat, so we had work to do. But in using the feedback circle, what we did is we realized that the work that we do, if we're, and this is why we do this on Wednesdays, if we're in connection and we're in relationship, the work that we do is going to be better quality, easier to do, more fun. Our experience is going to be better. So we took half the retreat and focused on connection. And we used the feedback circle to do that. So the feedback circle is, it's a time, well, first of all, let me just pause for a second and see what you have to say about that and where we are and about connection and how that really does, you know, work for us and help us do our work better and be better in life.
So the timing, as you know, but I'll share with everyone else, is especially beautiful because I too facilitated a retreat over the past couple days out here in California. And with Kathryn's guidance, I also implemented the feedback circle. And I did that after I explained to the group what happens to the brain when we provide compliments and sharing what we think people's unique gifts are and why we admire them. And a lot of times I think we brush over this, and it doesn't work as well when we say, I really like you. You're wonderful. You're awesome. You're great. We really, really push people to get away from words like that because they're not specific at all. They're easy to roll off your tongue and they don't feel authentic.
That's what happened to Sam when I said, your life does matter to me. He's like, that does nothing for me. He literally said that. So it's exactly right. Exactly.
You all probably know people that grew up never being told they were loved. And there are people that I know. My mother, on the other hand, said it so often. I love you. I love you. I love you. That I think, you know, it just felt like words. And that's why really thoughtful, intentional, true feedback sticks with people. So,
I'm dying to hear about your experience, and actually real life time. I asked about it and I haven't gotten the download yet. So this is going to be interesting. So let's tell a little bit about what the feedback circle is and how it works. Because even if you aren't, you know, facilitating a retreat, there's pieces of this that you can see are really important and that you can implement just in regular life. And when you're talking to people that you know and care about. So the feedback circle is really simple. It's, you know, the group, it's a timed exercise where you choose the amount of time. It can be anywhere from, you know, 4 to 10 minutes, where everyone in the group focuses on one person and you give them feedback, but you're telling them this is all positive. There's some questions that you can use to guide, like the energy of this person is, when I'm in this person's presence, I am inspired to blank, you know? And so, and those are guidance, but really people just start riffing and they start saying the amazing things about this person. So this is all meant to connect the person to their true gifts and hear how people see them. This is feedback that people often don't get. certainly not this transparent, this direct, and this vulnerable. The most difficult part about the feedback circle is for the person who is receiving it, because their job is to sit and receive as best they can, not to interject, not to deflect, which is a lot of times our normal default when somebody says, you are an amazing communicator and you inspire me to be a better person, which is true about you, Tara. Often we want to say, oh, well, thanks. It's just that, I went to school
Yeah.
for it. So
You don't take it. You're so right.
yeah. So that's the framework of this feedback circle. And and someone who is not the person receiving takes notes, because you cannot take in all of that information at once. And so yesterday I took notes for everybody, which was a gift to me because I got to live, what everyone was saying about the other people. And then later you have that to refer back to. But the impact, the energy in the room, when there is this much, I call them love bombs. They're just love coming at people, appreciation. What are you good at? Here are your gifts. It's incredible. It's intoxicating. You just want to, everyone was glowing at the end of it. And dare I say, the rest of our retreat was fantastic. It was phenomenal. We got more work done in a short amount of time with creative ideas, people truly stepping into their gifts, what they're good at, and bringing that forward. So I'm curious about your experience with it and what we think that this really does for people and how they can use it.
Yeah. So it was very similar to your experience, in that by the end of it, everyone just was emotional and connected and just feeling really, really capable, and which elevates productivity, right? And makes the work better. A couple of things that really stood out and I thought would be fun to share is the first person that we focused on. And I'm not exaggerating. I did the same thing that you did. Here are my notes. That's just two
Okay.
people.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
it just kept flying. And by the end of it, I mean, he literally had tears streaming down his face.
Wow.
So, and he just kept like holding his chest. And I mean, you could just tell, I mean, all these, and this gentleman is so talented, so full of heart. And you could just feel that no one ever tells him this. It's shocking to me. And then somebody else said, I want to tap out. Yeah. She said, I don't want to do this. I don't want.
I mean, she didn't want to give feedback, or she didn't want to receive it, or either.
She didn't want to receive it. And she said, I've always felt, and I thought this was super critical. She said, I've always felt that compliments, they sound a little like BS. Like people are just, people just say things to get what they want. They don't feel real. And so through a little bit of conversation, she's like, okay, we're just going to get this over with. And she agreed. And here's where I think the type of feedback is so very important. Everything that was said about her in that group, and she was probably the most well-known in the group, was so unique and specific and clearly things she's not heard before, that there was absolutely no way that they could have felt inauthentic. And even though for some people it's harder to take positive feedback and compliments than others, but it was super clear that she grew in the fact that not all compliments are meant to get something, and that these were genuine, and then the people wanted nothing in return.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that shows you how impactful it can be just to hear a genuine compliment from somebody else and just to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this on one of the podcasts. It was the greatest, when somebody gives you a gift, the greatest gift you can give that person is to receive it.
Yes.
And so again, when we're doing it, and I think what we're touching on here is how to be authentic, because even if you mean, of course, my son's life matters to me, of course, but it wasn't landing. So I immediately went into experience and said, okay, so I think that's why the questions that we asked to point people are pointing to my experience of you, instead of something that it could be, you're beautiful. Well, that may not mean something to somebody, but when I'm with you, I feel inspired to be my best self. Wow, that's powerful. When I'm with you, I feel safe and held, One of the questions that we often use is, in difficult times, I can count on this person to XYZ.
Mhm.
And in difficult times, like for you, Tara, in difficult times, I can count on you to be there. Period. End of subject. You know, and
Mhm.
that gives it more flavor to how do you do that? How do you say it, mean it, you know? So yeah. So anyway, so we know the impact, we've seen it. Even when I just gave you that compliment about in difficult times, your face lights up. So it's, how do we do this out in the world? Because this is one of the greatest gifts of feedback.
Mhm.
And so I think we're talking about that now. These are some of the things we say. We don't just say your life matters to me. In my case, we say, when you were a baby, I held you and I could not take my eyes off of you. I didn't want
Yeah.
to put you to bed because I wanted to just hold you close. Like
Mhm.
that is the experience of your life mattering to me, you know?
So if we're going to take this out into the world, for me, it starts with myself. It starts with intention. Like
Mhm.
when I leave your presence, I feel more capable to get things done, more capable to be the business person and the partner and the friend that I want to be. But it's because of our work together that I'm inspired to tell you that, right?
Mhm.
So I think partly we have to stop and think about the people that matter to us at work and in family and in play, and take the time to say something better than, you're awesome. But why? Why are you awesome?
So I love that. I love that, because imagine this, you know, you're at work, you're in a meeting, and, you know, I work for a coaching organization, so we live and swim in this world. Like, so it's not so awkward for us to start this way. But what if you started a business meeting, let's say, that's not in this space, or where it's a place where you just normally get down to business agenda items and keep moving. And, you know, you just say something about the people in the room. You could even ask each one to say something about the other person. What's been an experience of this person that you've had, a positive experience you've had with this person,
Mhm.
you know, in the last several weeks? And what was important about that to you? You know, that can start to get the conversation going when it's more of a conservative or traditional workplace.
Right.
You know, if you want to be
Yeah.
daring or it's not that conservative, just say, I think this is the most phenomenal team to come together and do this work. And here's why. Because Bob, you know how to get things done. And when I'm with you, you have such a can-do attitude. You're looking out for everybody else on the team. I know we're going to come together. You know, like one of the feedback that we gave somebody yesterday was, you never leave anyone behind. She never leaves anyone behind. It doesn't, no matter what. It's like, we need to bring this person in because they've been a part of this.
Mhm.
And that quality is so loving and caring and brings so much cohesiveness to the room, you know? So it's looking deeper and seeing, what is it about this person and why do I feel that way and why am I impacted that way?
Mhm.
You know?
So I also want you to share with our listeners, after going through this feedback exercise, you know, it goes a little bit to my talk to the brain work. Like each person might have had, I don't know, 40 different like positive things that people mentioned. But what I did, and we talked about this, is I took that information, you know, all these notes, and I condensed it down where I looked for consistencies, things that were being said in different ways over and over again, so that then when we left there, each person knew what their really unique gift was to the team, and that can be reinforced, and then they start to really own it. So share a little bit about bringing, because you've mentioned that through this, people learn what their really unique gift is, and how do we get there?
Well, I think it's exactly what you say. I mean, it could be naming it in the room, because you're right. With everyone that I've done, same thing. There are consistent themes that come out to be that person's real true gift. And when you step back and look at the whole team and you look at this gift and this gift and this, you know, and you put them all together, you're like, wow, that's a really powerful team. So I think a way to do that is, you know, in this particular instance, it's really honing in on those consistencies and continuing to reinforce that. When you're leading a team, it's also a place to look. Like we have, I work with somebody who's a very good appreciator. Like she loves to appreciate people and love on people, and she does a phenomenal job.
Mhm.
And for a while, I think I was trying to push her to do more task-oriented things that were in a different realm. And it was a little bit bumpy until I realized, actually, this is her gift. Let's do these things, line her up with these things. I'm sure it goes to a lot of the personality tests, to do the things that
Yes.
you love to do, and then you do them better. And, and so, yeah, I think it's a great question. I think we
Mhm.
can do that with people. Like when we think about people we care about, think about all the things we know about them, I think we could hone in on what we think are their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 true gifts, but really just 1 or 2 true gifts that they have to offer.
Right.
And then to reinforce that.
Mhm.
We do it with our kids all the time. I do it with my son. I say, he's incredibly creative. And so I say that to him all the time. I tell him the ways in which he's creative. He can solve problems. That's creative. So I show him all the different ways of creativity, and get his mind to think about it. And then one last thing that came to me, something else that popped up, is I asked him, what do you want me to praise you for?
Oh, that was smart.
We don't think about that. We just give people what we think they want.
Mhm.
But he actually told me what he wanted me to tell him he was doing a great job at. And so I haven't done that with adults, but I'm curious, like, what do you most want to be praised for? Because think about that. When somebody tells me I'm a good mother and something about it, a deeper statement about that,
Mhm.
that means a lot to me. True value of mine, something I work really hard at, somebody said to me the other day, you really give your sons the ability to push the boundaries and you don't get mad about it. You realize that's development. And I think that's a really good skill. And I thought, and that was a very specific, a deeper compliment. And I thought, wow, I got to reflect on that. And that meant a lot to me. And so maybe that's a place to look too, asking people, like, what would it be for you? Like if you could choose what you got praise for, feedback for, appreciation for, what would it be?
I can answer that without even a hesitation, that I think the best thing I could hear from people for me is, you've helped me to bring more joy to my life. Not that I bring it, but that they've learned how to bring their own flipping joy through knowing me. That would be the ultimate thing to be praised for me. So that's a cool question.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
tells me a lot about you and your values and where you come from. So in that one question, we can learn so much about people. And you've
Yes.
definitely helped me do that.
Oh, I'm so
Bring more
glad.
joy just by knowing you and how positive you are. So I love that that's what you want to be. I love knowing that. I love knowing that.
Yeah.
Gosh, we could talk about this forever. And we're inching up to the bottom of the hour. So I just am curious what questions are out there and what's come up for people, and how does this feel? Is it comfortable to think about it? Uncomfortable? Yes, Tom.
A comment, then I guess a question. And I like what you said, Kathryn, a few minutes ago about just recognizing the environment that a lot of us are in. It's not the norm to embrace and talk in this depth with people. And so that's just recognizing, the environment. But then it's all the more important then to step forward and do that. It can have that much more impact. Then I guess observation, and then I'll form it into a question. Kathryn, then you were chatting about you're identifying strengths of people through the feedback circle. Then it's a question of how to carry that forward. You can keep, coaching, developing, with your team members, and then you can really help accelerate, their own growth. So I guess my question then I don't think it violates the feedback circle. It's just translating and taking into forward momentum. Is that a good way to think about it?
Yeah. I want 2 things I wanted to say. One, when you say you don't often give this type of feedback or speak to this depth, in some situations, I think that's true. And what that calls forth is for you or whoever it is to be more creative in how you do this. Because if you come in with, hey, we're going to do a feedback circle into your corporate boardroom, where they've never been exposed to anything like this, it could flop, unless it's really held well. So it's a way of saying, but we do give people feedback on performance reviews, for instance, and things like that. So it's how do you do this? And that's where some of the deeper questions come in, or comments about people where you say, you know, the other day when you helped me out, that really made me feel like we were on the same team. And I felt so calm and grounded after that. I really appreciate that. That's not, I don't think that would be awkward for many people, or I mean, it could be, but you know, it's a more, let's say, conservative, traditional way to say it. So I just wanted to name that.
Mhm.
And then, yes, exactly, Tom, what I was describing about, you know, this person on my team who's an appreciator, it's like a couple of things, looking when there's what I call dissonance, when things aren't quite going well. Resonance is like, oh my gosh, you're jiving, it's all going well, things are going great, it's all clicking. Dissonance, it's when it's like, you know, that awkward,
Disjointed. Mhm.
disjointed. And it's like, what's going on there? Are their values not aligned? Are they not tapping into their true gifts? Because giving an appreciator a huge list of tasks to do, for instance, could lead to some real dissonance. So realizing that and going, okay, where can we connect this? What we need and what this person does really well so that they can get filled up. Does that help?
It does. It does. And your comments about how to tee it up in an environment where people aren't used to it. I just the contrast. I overseas working with dozens of foreign militaries. It's such a contrast how it is in the U.S. You know, it all starts with the relationship. So Tara, you were talking about, you know, building the connection, you know, and then with the connection, then it's amazing what's possible when you actually then shift over to the work at hand. You know, in some cultures, you get left out of the room if you don't start with the relationship. And yeah, but again, it's the awareness as to, well, where do we need to start? And let's embrace that.
Right.
But thank you.
Yeah, that makes me feel grateful to be here. I do want to thank you, Tom. I want to touch on something that Stacy put in the chat, because I think it's something to think about. He said my big part of my love language is words of affirmation, and some people aren't. That's not their love language. One person that I know quite well who is not, that's not his love language, is my husband. And when I give him a lot, but mine is, and when I give him a lot of verbal love and, you know, compliments and saying the reasons why I think he's wonderful, it makes him very uncomfortable. And he's my husband. So think if he's in a feedback group, what I can't even imagine him in that setting. So that's why I gave someone permission to what she called tap out yesterday. But I want to point out that even if someone's uncomfortable with hearing positive things, that does not mean that they don't need it. So how do we respond to that? And one of the ways that I do more in a leadership role is put it in writing, put it in a note. Don't think, oh, they don't need it because it makes them uncomfortable. They may need it more than anybody.
I love that, Tara. That's great.
Yeah.
Love this conversation because it does. We know that relationships and communication are really what makes all of this happen. It brings more joy to the world. I mean, you should have seen everybody glowing yesterday when they left. And I myself basked in this feeling of feeling loved and seeing all the appreciation in the room. So we really hope that, you know, you all can take this out and bring more joy to someone's life at some point.
So, Kathryn, before you close us out, which I know you're about to, I'm not letting you get away with this. What do you want to be praised for?
Oh, interesting. You know, I've never thought about it, but honestly, being really present. I'm sure there's others, but just being really present with someone when I'm, you know, that they can feel me there with them. You know, that's a really great honor to really be truly present with somebody and that they know that they matter because I'm there with them and there's nothing else going on that's more important than them.
Wow. Well, you certainly are a model of that, and you've practiced it, and I've witnessed it. So, and I've learned a lot from watching that. So cheers to you.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to close out. We're going to start with love, the first of our 7 tenets, because this is just, gosh, it's just such a great feeling to make other people feel good. So love in any way that you can. Give of your gifts, and eat more plants. Give your body that treat. And that will hopefully lead to you sleeping more and getting that rest that you need, those 7 hours that get your body moving. And give of your gifts. Give of your love, your time, your energy, your presence. And I always forget one. I know I have moved, but what have I left off, Tara?
Laugh.
That's right. Of course I did. I always leave laugh off. That's going to make me laugh. Laugh, everybody, and move that body. We'll see you here tomorrow on Thursday. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Bye.